We continue previewing one World Cup team every day until the World Cup starts. We're in Group C and we're working with the team in Pot 3 today. That would be Poland and your boy Robert Lewandowski. Oh, yeah. And for just the third time ever, the Poles have qualified for consecutive World Cups. But how did they do it? Well, they did it in the same group as England, actually. They did it in surprisingly easy fashion, considering the situation. Poland was put in a group with Albania and Hungary as well, two teams that would have at least considered themselves with an outside chance of making it to the World Cup. Hungary in particular has had a brilliant Nations League recently and has proven to be a very good team. Thusly, Poland struggled with Hungary during World Cup qualifying. Poland actually lost to Hungary and drew Hungary in their two matches. The same can be said for England. They lost and drew to England, but against every other team in their group, Poland won every single game. Now, against San Marino and Andorra, that's not a really big problem at all, but against Albania, it is a pretty significant problem, one that entirely derailed Hungary's World Cup qualifying hopes. And as a result, Poland's ability to beat teams they were supposed to beat put them into the second position in their group quite comfortably. Even lost that game to Hungary on the final day, and it didn't matter. This put Poland into the seeding for the World Cup playoff. It's the first time that Europe has done something like this recently, where if you finish second, you go into this group of 10, and based off how you did, you are seeded in green for good or blue for bad. Bad being you're on the road for the initial match. But Poland actually ended up getting incredibly lucky. If you're wondering why the numbers don't quite check out, it's because the top two Nations League teams that hadn't actually qualified for at least second place so it came in to make it around 12, and the fact that Russia happened to be a seeded team. Now, Russia's obviously been a horrific actor on the world stage recently, so their team got banned from qualifying. Well, they didn't get to host a match against Poland. Now, did they? Poland, Sweden, and Czechia, and just about every other team in the world decided they didn't want to play Russia under any circumstances. And so Poland got a walkover against Russia in the World Cup qualifying playoff. Sweden won after extra time against Czechia, and that set up a final matchup between Poland and Sweden to get to the World Cup. That is a match that Poland won 2-0, which is particularly impressive considering Sweden made the World Cup quarterfinal 4 years ago. They would have certainly expected to make it back, but Poland was standing in their way. See, Poland was at the same World Cup that Sweden was at in 2018. There's only one. They did a lot worse than Sweden, so this is a surprise turnaround. Despite picking up a World Cup win over Japan, Poland finished in the bottom of its group after losing matches against Senegal and Colombia. And this continues what is a troubling trend for Poland. The last 3 World Cups they've made, all since 1986, they've gone out in the group stages. If we take it back further, though, they used to be a very successful World Cup team. From 1974 to 1986, Poland made it 4 times in a row. They got out of the groups 3 of those 4 times and actually made it to the semifinals twice. But until recently, that golden generation felt very far away. Where it's become most apparent, though, has been in the European Championships, when we take a look at how they've done in continental competitions leading into this World Cup. For this, the Euros are very useful. They're the 2020 Euros, but they happen in 2021 for obvious reasons. And it is on this stage that for the 3rd time in 4 Euros, Poland qualified and then got knocked out in the group stage. The only exception to this trend with this current generation was the 2016 Euros, in which Poland actually made a miraculous run to the quarterfinals. Like I said, that momentum didn't carry. It wasn't like they didn't produce any good performances, though. Poland drew Spain, but found a way to lose to Slovakia and Sweden, who they promptly knocked out of the World Cup about a year later. Revenge. And not that the Nations League is particularly relevant, but Poland managed to stay in Nations League A, which is the highest level for the top 12 teams in Europe. They beat Wales twice, drew Belgium once, and stayed up in their group, proving again that they have the ability to beat teams consistently that they should beat. But who is the player to watch on this team? Well, it's Rob. No, it's not. It's not. You already know about him, and we're not just going to go with the talisman on every team as the player to watch. Lewandowski plays for Barcelona, scored 1 million goals a year at Bayern Munich. He is widely regarded one of the top 2 or 3 strikers in the world and will score against anybody, anywhere, anytime. He wears the captain's armband. He runs out there for Poland, and he is the focal point. But if Poland's actually going to do anything, they clearly need more than Lewandowski. He was at the last World Cup. He's been involved in the Euros, and he did help them to that quarterfinal run in 2016, but they need more. And that more is this new generation, spearheaded by a tricky creative playmaker named Sebastian Szymanski. That's your player to watch. on Poland. Szymanski just moved from Dynamo Moscow to Feyenoord in the top Dutch division, one of the biggest clubs there. He already has 3 goals and 3 assists in his first 10 matches. He's shown tactical versatility, which fits in, and he's a facilitator, which fits into helping out Robert Lewandowski. He can play as the number 10, sitting behind the striker, and he's very comfortable playing as a winger. That's his more natural position, but his variety of passing is something that jumps out to scouts immediately. He has energy, he has work rate, he has creativity, and he has chops playing in a high-level European league on either side of Poland. To boot, this is his first World Cup. This is his first time to really be able to influence Poland on this stage and perhaps provide them the creative juices that they lacked at the previous one. He's good, and so is the rest of Poland, which doesn't necessarily get enough credit for at least having a starting 11 that is fairly familiar to top leagues in Europe. The other facilitator trying to set up Lewandowski is Piotr Zielinski. He plays at Napoli and has tons of experience. The midfield of Jacek Góralski and Jakub Moder, well, they both play at top level teams in Europe as well. Góralski's at Bochum in the Bundesliga, Jakub Moder is at Brighton, and he's in Szymanski's generation. Now, the center of defense is where this starts to fall apart, because they have essentially one guy, Jan Bednarek. Now, they do like to play with 3 at the back sometimes. This is a tactic pulled from their World Cup playoff final against Sweden. A nice 4-5-1 with Lewandowski being fed by Zielinski and Szymanski. Pretty easy to tell this is the Polish team. The fullbacks, Matty Cash and Berezinski, they're both top level European players as well, so 5 at the back system with them at wingback is something that we see Poland use in the Nations League too. They used it away to Wales to make sure they clinched staying in Nations League A. Move Berezinski over to the right. Zielinski was on the field, but at the World Cup it is likely going to be Berezinski and Cash. Against Argentina, you'll likely see the 5 at the back formation, but against Mexico and Saudi Arabia, I do believe they're going to switch to a 5-2-3, maybe even the 4-5-1 we saw against Sweden, to try and be more aggressive in facilitating goal scoring opportunities. And it's all made better by the fact they have a world-class goalkeeper in Wojciech Szczesny, who's been around, seen it all, played for some of the biggest clubs in the world. But what are their chances of actually getting out of the group? If you watch the Mexico video, then you already know I think Poland is going to finish second. I think the introduction of Jakub Moder, of Sebastian Szymanski, is going to make a difference. Guys like Matty Cash being on the scene, being able to help this team over the line and beat a Mexico side that is slumping. And after all, what does Poland do? They beat teams they are supposed to beat. In 1 through 11, it does look like Poland has the better team than Mexico. Not clearly, not incredibly convincingly, but enough, in my opinion. As for whether Poland can go on and win the whole tournament, I won't give them any chance of being able to do that, because Poland has also shown equally that they are very likely to lose against good teams. Maybe they work out a draw like the Nations League against Belgium, maybe Spain in the Euros where they found a draw, but they can't win against those teams in the same way that other sides have shown that they can. And I think a victory for Poland is making the knockouts. They haven't freaking been there since 1986 at the World Cup. So while they aren't a threat to win the whole thing, they're not a dark horse to win the whole thing. They are and should think of themselves as the second best team in this group. Now, if you've missed every other video previewing every team at the World Cup, well, here's a link to the entire playlist. We will be doing 1 video a day until the World Cup kicks off on November 20th. I look forward to seeing you then. We'll be live on Twitch, by the way. That's what I mean. Here's the playlist. Sorry. Twitch link's down there. Playlist is here, and I'll just sit. What's up?